Okay. Hello. If you were notified earlier, which I don't think you were, we're having some trouble with the live stream. I think in fact, I know that we have it working now. So we will be going on the air. We will be discussing Twitter's suspension of the PJNet application and the future of that. And we do, of course, have some bad news, but we also have a lot of good news as well. So hope you'll tune in for that. We are about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Yeah. 3 minutes and 10 seconds away. We're watching a really hot video, the Florida-Georgia line, here in the chat room. And we'll see you live here in, about 3 minutes. Look forward to seeing you then. Better. Had a little trouble getting our live stream going. I thought maybe another boogeyman was out there trying to get us. Hey, thanks for dropping in tonight. Many of you are probably eager to hear what the heck has happened. Well, it's been a rough 24 hours, and we're just going to have to stick together and stay with this. I'm going to try to tell you some things I believe are true, things that I know to be true, and some things that I can only presume and speculate. Let's start with just a chronology, and some of you I have shared this with privately, so bear with me. For those of you who hadn't heard, about 24 hours ago, Wednesday night, some of you were having trouble logging in and authorizing the PJNet app, and we thought that perhaps your browser was having a problem. Well, as it turns out, about midnight, I myself tried to log in, and I could see for myself that I couldn't log in. So I thought there must be something wrong. So I went and looked at our server, and it was trying to send out tweets like crazy, but they were all failing. All failing. No tweets were going out. Even tweets that had been previously scheduled when you could, go to the tweet scheduler and schedule the tweets, and they were failing. All of them. 100% failure. That's bad news. I thought, okay, well, let's check with Twitter. Let's make sure the status of the Twitter API, that's the Twitter Application Programmer Interface, was up and healthy. Yes, it was. Okay, so what's wrong with our application? Well, I went there and it said suspended. Suspended. Well, that's horrifying. What on earth did we do? Well, here's a fact. We have made no changes in the programming or in the platform in a couple of years now. So there's been nothing precipitated this on our end. Well, anyway, when your application is suspended, you can click on this thing and fill out this form that goes into, Twitter support somewhere. And I don't remember exactly what I typed in there, but I said we haven't made any changes. If there is something wrong, please, by all means, let me know. I don't think that the security of our server has been breached and someone has gotten a hold of the keys that unlock the door to Twitter that allow us to post things. That's I basically said, I don't know what's wrong, but please let me know. So with that, I went to bed. Well, I wish I'd have stayed up a few minutes, because within minutes I get an email from Twitter, and these are facts. So let me just read you the email. That I woke up the next morning and I was delighted to see that not long after I had submitted my quote appeal to Twitter, here's what Twitter told me. Sorry, I didn't have all this ready for you folks, so kind of be with me. This is all, it may go a little long tonight, and I'm not trying to bore you, but I know that many of you are wondering what's going on, and some things are being tossed around out there that are patently not true. So let's deal with facts, okay, please, all of us. And I'm going to do my best to do that and let you know when I leave the realm of fact and enter the world of speculation. I'll try to be very much. Okay, this was at 1:20 a.m. Eastern Time. Twitter says, thanks for reaching out. We have reviewed your request and have reactivated your API key. What that means is they had unsuspended the application. Going forward, carefully ensure that your application adheres to Twitter's policies. And then they give you a link to their policies. Okay. Well, I thought, well, they're great. So I went and checked on the, by the way, the night before, since we couldn't send any tweets out, I shut down the programs that do all that. So we weren't even trying to send any out. I didn't want to irritate Twitter with requests that obviously would not be honored, and causing them to reject them. And, you know, just thought, let's just take a breather here. So I forgot to mention that earlier, but it's an important point that I shut down the server at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and at 1:20 I get a message saying that they have unsuspended the application. I was asleep. I wake up the next morning and read that. I go crank up the applications, and no tweets are going out. They're failure, 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 100% failure. I thought, well, let me go check on the app. So I go check on the app, and it is suspended. I thought, well, gee, they said they reinstated it, and the server's not even running, and it's been suspended again. There's certainly nothing that we could have done while the server was turned off. I didn't physically turn it off, but I shut down the programs, okay? Just the desktop. So I appeal the, again. And in that appeal, I was more verbose, and I will bore you to tears, but I want to equip you all with the facts as I know them. Okay? Here's what I told Twitter. This is in the second appeal. Okay? No changes have been made in this app in years. I am not aware of any compromise of the security key. That's the little key that unlocks the door so we can post tweets to Twitter. I said, where was I? There's been no compromise of the security key that I'm aware of. I didn't say there wasn't a compromise. I said I'm not aware of one. If they, maybe Twitter just forgot to reinstate the app. Okay. The app was suspended less than 12 hours ago. I shut down the programs that implement the API key, submitted an appeal, then retired to bed. Upon awakening, some 6 hours later, I was delighted to discover an email received at 1:20 a.m. advising me that the API key had been reactivated. No explanation was offered, and I read you their email from a minute ago. The email of API reinstatement contained a reference of, and then it's this long, you know how those reference number things are. It's unimportant what it is. Anyway, but I wanted to give them something to trace it back to. I restarted the programs that implement the application and noticed that they were failing. At present, the app is suspended. Now, I do not know whether or not the API key was ever reactivated. If it was reactivated and then suspended again, I do know that, apart from a breach of security on my end resulting in the compromise of the API key, there is no possibility of the API key being used to warrant resuspending the app. Excuse me, folks. I need some more coffee. There is no possibility of the API key being used to warrant resuspending the app since the program that used the API key were not running. I sincerely hope that we can resolve any problems that may be happening. It is our desire to be a good Twitter citizen, and we want to be in compliance with your rules. If there was any use of the API key between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern Time, I can only conclude that the API key is compromised. Any activity using the API key should only come from one of the following IP addresses. Then I list all 3 of the IP addresses that we use. They're unimportant, but it's important to Twitter. Please advise me of any actions that need to be taken on my end to normalize the situation. I pledge to you my full cooperation in resolving this matter. That was sent basically as soon as I woke up. Okay. Well, I hit submit, off it goes, and then I get a email from Twitter, within 2 or 3 minutes. Okay? And that email says, "Hello, thank you for reaching out. Your app has been restricted or suspended due to 1 or more violations of our Twitter agreement policy, automation rules, display requirements, and/or Twitter rules. Common reasons for this include, but are not limited to," and then users doing this, that, and all these things that we don't do. The list is not exhaustive, so please review our policy documentation. Well, on and on it goes. I concluded, or felt like, and I'm guessing now, that this last email that I just kind of read or paraphrased was basically an auto reply to the appeal. Now, let me continue. Please respond to this email if you need further clarification, but note that we will only consider a request to lift this restriction after you provide us with the following: your app ID and consumer key. Those are credentials. I know them and I can send those. Link to and instructions on how to log into your application to review it for compliance. A list of specific changes that you have made to resolve policy non-compliance. We will not respond to requests to lift restrictions that do not include this information. Okay, well, first of all, I have not replied. Okay. For one thing, I was, you don't want to go off half-cocked, and I was very emotional, very, among other things, angry, but frustrated. Let's just say frustrated. Is that fair enough? Frustrated. I don't know how we are not in compliance. I literally am clueless. So how in the world can I tell them how to review it for non-compliance when, as far as I'm concerned, we are in compliance? If I thought differently, I would never have been out of compliance in the first place. Okay. And so then they asked me to list specific changes that I've made to resolve the non-compliance. Well, how am I going to do that? Okay. Kind of frustrating. So I thought, let me just, I had to go to work today. Let me just cool it for a while, and think about it, pray about it, talk to some other people about it. Okay. So this is all facts. I'm just reading you what Twitter has sent me. And of course you can't call Twitter. Everything's done by email. They won't tell me what we've done or what I've done. It's sort of like being arrested and thrown in jail, saying you've broken a law. Well, what law have I broken? Well, go down to the law library, and there's hundreds and hundreds of books on the statutes in your particular state. Read them. It's somewhere in there. Surely you know, because you've done something wrong. Well, I literally don't know. Okay. All right. Well, obviously people have been contacting me like crazy, and it's going to be very difficult for me to solve this problem if I'm constantly servicing these individual, please help me, I can't log in. What's going on? There's a Twitter boogeyman out there that hates us, and So some of the messages that I've got said, you know what? Unfollow Spy as well as Crowdfire have also been shut down. Well, there is a reason to believe that. However, I assure you it is not true. So let me say this. I can say without reservation and without qualification that Unfollow Spy is a working application. It has not been suspended. I have logged in and authorized it within the past hour. Okay, so their app's not suspended. Same thing is true with Crowdfire. They are not suspended. Now, that being said, these people that think it's been suspended because have you noticed you hadn't been getting any of those DMs lately? Thank you for following me. Brought to you by unfollowspy.com. I don't know if you noticed, but you hadn't received any of those in the past few hours. Okay? Well, here's the deal, folks. Twitter has revised its policy on automated direct messages. Now, by the way, we never did any automated direct messages. Okay? And done. Okay. We're capable of doing them, but we haven't. Twitter's basically saying you can't do it. Now, I have I looked at the developer documentation. Twitter is in the process of rolling out a portion of their developer guide, and it talks about and alludes to this idea of a welcome message, which sounds like a direct message to me. But it's certainly going to change form. I don't know what it's going to look like, but Twitter has taken the position. Now, if you go to Unfollow Spy, I believe, they've got an announcement up there that Twitter has told them they can't do that anymore, which is about like Twitter telling us you can't schedule tweets anymore. Okay, it's pretty much it's gutting the system of most of its value. Not that there aren't other things, but that's their leader. Just like our tweet scheduler is our popular feature. A lot of people use it. So there is, if you believe or have heard others say that Twitter is on this rampage to cut out and silence conservative voices. Well, that's, folks, I understand the feeling, but that is a false. First of all, if it were true, you can't prove it. But it is actually not true. If Twitter wanted to silence conservatives by shutting down Unfollow Spy, what about all the liberals that use Unfollow Spy? Do you think conservatives have some monopoly on it? I mean, so that would, if it were true that Twitter were trying to silence conservatives, I don't think shutting down Unfollow Spy would be a good idea. Doesn't make sense. And by the way, they haven't shut it down. I think we're all kind of somewhat annoyed to some extent by those, and I think Twitter realizes it, and they're trying to improve the Twitter experience. So let's give Twitter a break. It's their platform, and however much we may disagree with other things, they're going to make the rules, and we're going to either comply or not get on Twitter. I mean, that's the deal. And we want to comply. This is not something new. I've been saying this for years. Okay, we are guests at their dinner table. You ever heard me say that? So we want to be good citizens. So please, if you have been saying, or others have said they've shut down well, no, they haven't. So let's try to do your best to let's have a narrative, but let's be correct. Okay, let's not say things that are not true. And by saying it, they're not. I know they believe that's the case. I'm not saying that they're making this up. They have reason to believe it, but that's the details. Boring, maybe I spent too long on that, but I want you to know everything that I know, and I'm still trying to figure this out, so bear with me. And I do have a day job, so I don't have time to devote to this throughout the day, and Barbara has been very helpful, Sunbelt Girl, in helping me sort of go through what Twitter says. Okay, now let me try to explain to you that there seems to be a semantic difference between when Twitter uses the words automated I need some clarification, and I think I need to clarify to them what we do here at PJNet. Let's use the unfollow spy model. You go in there and you tell unfollow spy, anytime I get a new follower, automatically, hear that word? Automatically, dispatch the following direct message to them. In other words, you take one action, one time, that creates a multitude of direct messages automatically. Automatically. Okay? Got it? I need, in my response to Twitter that I will fashion, I need to explain to them the difference between automatic and automation. As you all know very, very well, when you go to schedule tweets, no tweet is automatically sent. No tweet is automatically sent. That's very, very important. But all tweets are sent by automation. Did you get it? But as you know, you must check that box for each and every tweet that our automation sends out. There is not a select all feature, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to be able to defend ourselves against automatic messaging, you know, on Twitter, spammy stuff, saying, no, 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 no. No, I have been asked by you, the app user, to dispatch this. Okay, you asked me to do it. I'm honoring the request by dispatching it using our automation. Does that are y'all tracking on this? Does this make sense to you? So I need to have a dialogue and narrative with Twitter to clarify the difference between automatic and automation. Okay, so I've got to wordsmith all that in a way they that makes sense to them. Okay, because I don't believe we are doing anything quote automatically. All right. Now, so I'm left with, why did they suspend the app? The answer is I don't know. I wish I did. I've asked them. They won't tell us. They won't tell me. Okay, now. So I have to now guess. What might it be? What is our transgression? What is my transgression here? I'm the. By the way, who's responsible for this? I am. Me and me alone. Okay, not Now we have, as you know, a tweet scheduler that is capable of generating a high volume of tweets. Is it possible that it is because people are what I would call using, I guess in Twitter's opinion they might call that abusing, our application to generate high volumes of tweets, and that is spammy and annoying, and somehow a negative experience for people on Twitter. Okay, I would argue then that their disciplinary actions to correct that should be directed against the user that is tweeting too much, rather than to suspend the application, thus denying legitimate, whatever that is, users who tweet less the opportunity to use our application in their normal, acceptable use of the app. That makes sense? Sort of like guns. A nut just killed a bunch of people with a gun. Should we have our guns taken away because some other nut abused the gun that they had? No. Okay. But I do have to consider the idea that we may be, because we can facilitate a high volume of tweets, maybe that facilitation is somehow making us culpable in other people's transgressions. Personally, I don't buy that line of reasoning, but if Twitter is of that opinion, their opinion is the only one that matters. Exactly. What about TweetDeck? Good point. Touche, Crossbear. Hey, glad to see you here, Crossbear, who's been very, I mean, folks, this is times like this is when we kind of come together. Okay. So here's what I'm considering doing. When you schedule the featured tweets and the encore tweets, that totals up to 100. And once you schedule it, you can't schedule them again until the initial battery of tweets that you've scheduled has exhausted itself. I did that on purpose to limit the number of tweets that go out because, don't want to get spammy. But of course, you could go to a different hashtag and schedule 100 tweets on that, and then another hashtag on that. You're still well within the quota of tweets that Twitter documents that you're allowed to have. So I thought we were okay on that. But I may have to consider, basically you can schedule, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do this, I'm saying that I may do. I am considering it. Is you can use the tweet scheduler to schedule one theme, and until that is over, you can't schedule anything else. Okay, may have to do that. I know that would not sit well with some of you or some of me. Okay, but we're not doing any good in jail here. Okay, we're not prosecuting any war here. So that's one thing. The other possibility that I'm guessing is, let me talk about the retweet engine, because Twitter, Barbara and I were kind of going through their little narrative, they do say things about automatic retweets. Now again, I want to remind you of the narrative that we just went over. I do not consider what we are doing as automatic retweets, because no retweets happen until and unless each individual human, checks that little box. So in my opinion, they're not automatic at all. But you know what? My opinion doesn't matter. Twitter's opinion matters. Okay? So I'm going to bring this distinction forward to Twitter and advise them that our automatic retweets are not automatic, they are volitional. And our automation carries out each and every individual request. That's what I'm going to tell them. See if they'll buy it. Hopefully we won't have to make any changes there. Okay. There is another paragraph in the rules and regulations having to do with replies and mentions. I emphasize the word "and." Replies and mentions. Have you ever been trolled? You put a tweet and somebody replies to it off topic and it's unsolicited. That is annoying, isn't it? Okay. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. It tends to detract from it. It tends to discredit whatever point you're trying to make. And they're just barging in on a conversation they're really not a part of. They are a part of, but they're off topic. A reply is one thing. Well, nothing in the implementation of the PJNet app would cause a reply to a tweet. So we simply don't do that. Are we capable of doing that? Yes, we are. But we have not done that because I don't think it's a good idea. Okay? And others have used this idea saying, see, you can get your message on Justin Bieber's timeline that everybody's reading. Your message may be about you hate global warming. Well, Justin Bieber wasn't tweeting about global warming, but you're kind of trying to put yourself on center stage of somebody else's theater. You need to tweet, you need to get your own theater, your own stage, and occupy your own stage. So I kind of get where Twitter's at on that. So that's why we stayed away from it. So we don't do that. So that's not it. But they use the word "and" mentions. Well, folks, all of our featured tweets mention another account. And heck, I thought I was doing them a favor. Being mentioned on Twitter is a denomination of currency in the Twitter economy. It means you're more relevant, more influential. Based on my reading of their rules, it could be that they don't think so. And the automation has nothing to do with that. That has to do with the construction of a featured tweet, the anatomy of a featured tweet, how we do it. And so we may have to totally retool our featured tweets instead of saying, oh, by the way, it says, get this, I'm not kidding, I'm paraphrasing. The rules say you can't mention someone else on Twitter unless they've given you their prior permission. Are you serious? Has anybody ever given or even received such prior permission? Yet mentions occur thousands of times a minute on Twitter. So I find it hard to believe. But that's what it says. Well, basically that's a notification that is unsolicited and barges in on the experience of the person being mentioned. Well, I think it's a good thing. I thought it was a good thing, but maybe it's not. Again, my opinion doesn't matter, does it? The opinion that matters is that of Twitter. So we may have to change the anatomy of a featured tweet. One idea that kind of came to mind is we can say nominate a tweet. When you nominate a tweet, you're saying, by nominating this tweet, you are granting permission to this application to mention you in a rendition of this tweet. Okay. Anyway. So we're going to look at it. Now, none of this, so I have to try to figure out what I've done wrong and correct what I've done wrong. I can't actually test it because the app's been suspended. So any of you that have ever written code, you can change code, and you could actually break a working page by just making a little change, and you can't test it because the app doesn't work. It's suspended. So folks, this is going to be kind of challenging. It's going to be very challenging. But here's what I want to remind everybody of. Again, we want to be in compliance. We are guests at Twitter's dinner table. We want to be in compliance. That is the goal. And we're going to make some changes and hope that I have guessed what is our transgression or transgressions, and we'll make some changes to bring it in compliance, okay? And hope that it works. If it doesn't work, then, well, I don't know what we'll do, but here's what I won't do. Here's what we won't do. We won't quit. We won't just say, well, it was a great party while it lasted, but it's over. No, it's not over. We will do something, okay? I'm kind of tired of talking, and I am sure that you are probably tired of listening. But I wanted to, thank you all for reaching out with your words of encouragement and your concerns and so forth. I would ask this. Please let's not tweet out hateful, excoriating tweets saying that Twitter is out to get us. Okay? Let's not do that. I can't stop you from doing it. I'm just asking. Please don't do that. One, I don't think it'll work. Number two, I'm trying to address Twitter as a professional, and it makes it harder for me to have a credible professional conversation with them when people start rattling their sabers saying that Twitter's out to get us conservatives. Whatever your opinion may be on that, let's express that opinion in some other way is my request to you. Let's be polite, let's be civilized, and let's be right, because I don't like making accusations unless I have the burden of proof and can bring forth some evidence that supports my claim. I personally don't believe Twitter did this because we're conservative. Now, maybe they did. You may believe that. It may be true. But I can't prove it. Okay, so if we can't prove it, let's just keep the narrative about stuff we know. And what we know is very little right now. So with that, thank you all for your patience and your sympathy and your encouragement and all of that. And we are going to get through this, and I appreciate the team rallying around the flag, and be certain that I'm going to do everything that I know to do to bring this thing back, and we'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay? That's about all I've got to say about that. I will have to catch up on reading the chat. I can't read the chat and do all this at the same time, but you all have been great. Let's get back. Let's have a little fun tonight, and let's take a little Twitter vacation and enjoy it, and we will be back. And let's get started on that party right now.